Alright everybody, here's a too long didn't watch version of the video. Essentially what I'm going to be discussing is the concept of how in modern society a great deal of people are trying to attribute all the problems within this society towards masculinity, while my perspective is the same but from the opposite direction. They are trying to say that masculinity is a bad thing, while I attribute all the problems in our society to a distinct lack of masculinity. If this does interest you, maybe we can discuss it. If not, well, pretty much you should be able to comment just based off of this. So, have fun. Anyways, let's get into the video. I don't think masculinity is a bad thing. And I find it highly concerning that there is a group of people, maybe they're in the majority or maybe they're in the vocal minority. Hopefully it's the vocal minority, but you really can't tell because of social media and how hyperbolic it is. But they are trying, it seems like they are trying to attach a negative meaning on the masculinity. Like masculinity in of itself is a bad thing. And I really don't agree with that at all. You know, the term toxic masculinity, I'm sure some of you who have their finger on the political pulse have heard that before. But what I think that is, it seems like the more like third wave feminist, fourth wave feminist, whatever, what they say, what they call toxic masculinity is actually, from my perspective, the lack of masculinity. I was in class and we were watching a film. It's called The Alphabet and the Goddess, and I found it extremely interesting. And I will say there's a extreme, well, that's not the right word for it. There's a noticeable left-wing bias, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I found it really interesting because in the film it brings up Sparta. And when I think of what a man is, in those times anyways, that's where my mind goes to. A Spartan. Just a goddamn man, you know. And I found this highly surprising, but in Spartan culture, women were pretty much equal. They were cherished in society. But in like basic Greek, like Athens and all the, I guess the mainstream Greeks, whatever you want to call them, women were treated like shit, essentially. And I thought that was extremely interesting because it seems so strange that you would think that in just a testosterone-filled culture, women would get the raw end of the deal. So I had a thought. And that thought was, I wonder if it also applied across other more masculine-based cultures, and I was right. I couldn't think of many. Like, honestly, I could only think of one, and that was Vikings. And to my surprise, not really. They also treated women in high regard. Now, we're going to have to take a step back. All right. So, in like ancient society, like picture like caveman society, whatever, if they had one. In that day and age, men and women, we had distinct roles. The men were the hunter and gatherers, and the women, they reared the children, they took care of all the people at the tribe. Now, in the documentary, The Alphabet and the Goddess, the doctor speaking made the argument that men enjoy killing, and we take pride in it, blah, blah, blah. Now, I have a distinct issue with this, and this basically goes into what our roles within that society would be. Now, yes, we were hunters, we did go out and kill, but what was the most important resource within that society? Now, I mean no offense to any women watching, but women were the most important resource. Children we're also the most important resource, because at the end of the day, you can have all the food on the table as you want, but if you ain't got no women, you ain't got no children, the future of the tribe is gone. So I put forward this notion that at the end of the day, our most important job as men are protectors. So that completely flips that argument on its head from like, oh, we're killers. No. We are, by definition, protectors, praetorians, guards. That's my perspective, anyways. And that would explain why in these more masculine-based societies, that's why women are protected. Because at the end of the day, look, a real man, he's not gonna be a piece of shit toward you, right? And he's gonna respect you. He's going to cherish you. He's going to take care of you. Now, here's a much more simplistic way of viewing this. If you look into the animal kingdoms, mainly lions, I get it, lions. I'm absolutely pathetic. All right, but for real, if you look at the gender roles between lionesses and lions, you'll notice that the females, they do most of the heavy lifting. They do the hunting. They are the main breadwinners. They bring food back to the pride. But I've seen many examples of this. You'll have 4 or 5 females on like a water buffalo or something, and he's not budging without a lot of fight. But you'll have a male lion, and he'll just run up. He'll grab the thing by the throat, and he'll throw it to the ground. Now, I do not want this in my video because I'll just look like a piece of shit. It looks like me too, so I'm just growing my mustache. Anyways, the male's primary role is, the reason he doesn't hunt like the females is because he is the defender of the pride. And if he gets hurt while hunting, an invader, another male lion will come in, and since he's already hurt, he's going to get his ass kicked, so he's done. And then that new upstart male lion will come in and kill all the cubs. He'll erase the genetic evidence of his predecessor, and then he will pass on his genes. Now, let's look at this from a different angle. Now, a lot of feminists, they will attribute a lot of the problems in our society to masculinity, and I agree with them, but again, from a completely different perspective. You see, I believe one of the main issues in our society is the fact that boys are not taught how to be men. Now, while some feminists will try to put forward the notion that it is the presence of masculinity that is the reason for why some men are mistreating women, I'm putting forward the notion that it is the lack of masculinity as the reason why some men are mistreating women. And I use mistreating women very loosely, but you do see it on social media all the time. And most of it's just trolling and people talking shit, and to that I say, just get over it. Like, look, if you're going to be online, like, you got to deal with that stuff. I'm sorry. That's reality right there. But I do see a lot of stuff that I don't like, and it makes me sad. Now, me and my friends were talking about this, and Jared put forward this idea. Twice a boy, once a man. Now, what I'm going to be talking about is going to apply to men and women equally. Like, this goes so far beyond gender roles, this broad brush every person in the world. But you start out as a boy, right? You're a kid, or you start out as a girl, and then you grow up and you're a man or you're a woman. Point A, point B, and then you get old and your body starts to deteriorate and you're a kid again. Point C. Now, a lot of people, they go from point A directly over to point C. So essentially, the reason, like, because this goes into cancel culture, and the reason why things are the way they are online, social media, is because social media is essentially an electronic playground for kids in adult bodies. Just to be clear, my shit stinks. I'm not saying I'm better than anyone. I'm on social media all the time. I'm getting into fights all the time. And I'm working through my issue. I'm trying to. But what I am saying is that so many of you, so many, you have so much potential, you have so much room for growth, but you've settled. You stopped working on yourself because you turned 18, and I'm just talking here. You turned 18 and you're like, oh, I'm a man. I'm an adult now. That's not how it works. I know so many people that are grown adults, but they're stupid as hell. And I mean, that's mean, but it's true. And I know kids like way younger than me that are more adult than, more wiser than so many people. Now, me and my friends were talking about this the other day. I want you to think about this. What if the meaning of life is growth? Now, what does life do? It spreads out all over the planet. It's covered in it. When you make love to a woman, you put your seed in her. That seed grows, and it's your job to raise it up into a good old tree. Now, if you're not growing, okay, in life there's like things that you grow in. And I'm sure there's more than 3, but I'm just going off what's top of my head. All right, so in life you can grow mentally, you can grow spiritually, and you can grow physically. And if you're not growing in at least to a high extent in one of them, or hopefully you're growing in like just all of them, because you need to work out, but you gotta, you know what I'm saying. If you're not growing, then what are you doing? You're essentially, you're wasting away. Now, this goes into this concept. What is the difference between existing and living? Because I would wager there's a whole lot of people in today's world that are just existing. Now, when people are just existing, they typically look for things to latch onto, and that can be politics, that can be religion, that can be any type of group activity. And humans are very, very social creatures. So like pretty much just like all I'm talking about, it all ties into this like weird abomination, and that abomination is society. And I really don't know. Fuck. But anyways, guys, I hope you think about what I've said. Go over it. Watch the film, The Alphabet and the Goddess, and have a wonderful night.